folks get situated, and we're actually early, so we'll start at 5:32. Okay, I think we are at 5:32. We do not have quorum, I believe. We're waiting for Sharon and a few other folks, but I think, oh, we don't even have Zach. Neil, have you heard from Sharon?
Sharon responded that she would be attending the meeting.
Okay. I think we can go ahead and get started. Then, yeah, why don't we just kick off now? Welcome everybody to the March 2026 Multimodal Accessibility Advisory Council. My name is Karthik Balasubramanian. I am a Ward 6 resident, and I work in Ward 1. I have an eye condition called macular degeneration, which makes it not possible for me to drive. We generally start with just introductions around the room. We've got a few absences today. So Kelly Mack, for example, is not able to make it. She is traveling. But I will pass it over to Matthew for an introduction, and then if you can pass it on to the next person, and then we can go from there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Gosbach. I am a member of the Advisory Council. I am deaf. I use sign language. I live in Ward 5. I'll pass it to Sandy.
So we may not have Sandy. Maybe we can go ahead and pass it to Zach.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Zach Smith, liaison to the MAAC, District Department of Transportation.
Perfect.
This is Sandy. I figured out how to unmute. Can you hear me?
Oh, fantastic. Yes, we can.
I'm not used to this layout. So anyway, I'm Sandy Newsell. I'm out in Reston, Virginia. I am on the Accessibility Advisory Committee for Metro and serve on I'm the first vice chair of the Bus and Rail Subcommittee. So I think I have things to learn from you guys, and maybe I can help you too. I have an eye condition that's a little bit like macular degeneration, so I struggle to see things. And if you all don't mind, I think I'll just shut off my picture because then you don't have to look at the top of my head as I lean into the screen.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Andy, and welcome. I think who else? We've got Ashton.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashton. I live in Ward 6. I don't have disabilities myself, but several of my loved ones do. And so I am here to learn from you all and be an ally. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ashton. I think, do we have anyone? Jennifer Olson?
I'm one of the sign language interpreters.
Okay, welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and get started. We are missing Sharon, but we've got Matthew, and Sharon has actually pre-voted on one of our letters. Or I'm sorry, Kelly has. So why don't we, Nail, would you mind putting the agenda up on the screen? Perfect, thank you. Okay, great. So we'll start off with, yes, bus priority update. Zach, did we get anything from the bus team?
Sorry, I was on mute. I have a couple updates from the spreadsheet that I showed last time, and I know Jamie will be here next month to do a better job than I'm doing in terms of providing the bus priority updates. So on the screen, I've put up the Word document. I have about 15 projects displayed with what stage they're on, a description of the treatments, an anticipated construction timeline, location, length, and some updates since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, a couple of projects have moved into the construction phase. So we have the MLK Junior Avenue Southeast project between Mary and Berry Avenue in Southeast to St. Elizabeth's. That project, the priority bus lanes have been completed, and right now they're working on intersections improvements near the Anacostia Metro, which should be complete in April. Moving on to Minnesota Avenue, we actually have a notice of intent out for public comment until March 25th, and this lists all of the work that we plan to do on this project. And so in summation, it's just queue jumps, some stop rebalancing and traffic calming that we'll do along Minnesota Avenue. And if there's any more specific details that you all want, I can pull that out from the NOI.
Cool.
Others, a lot are in the sort of design phase, which is, well, between the 30% and 65% design phase. So around the 30% design phase is when they've sort of been through the planning period. We've received public comment. We've generally selected a concept for further design. And so a couple of those, like Georgia Avenue Northwest and U Street Northwest, are in that sort of interim phase where we're doing work with our consultants, trying to move funds to make sure that we have enough to complete design and then enter into construction. Florida Avenue, Northeast, Northwest, just note that that project is paused until U Street is constructed and we can review the data. 8th Street, I think that's the last one I have with updates. That NOI was out for public comment. That actually ended in February, and then construction is planned to begin next month. And so like I said, that's
great,
all I
cool,
have.
thank you.
I touched base with Jamie a little bit last week about this. He's aware of it. He's going to present what he has next month, and then talk a little bit about the entirety of the bus priority program. So I know that we've mentioned the 51 different corridors, but there have been some Not necessarily changes. I think we're still doing the 51, but how we present them publicly and what we're going to reevaluate, I think he'll be able to touch on that.
Okay. Okay, great. And then for the future, I wonder if we can also, so like this, so this all detail is great.
Mhm.
And then like for next month, for example, will they just like put what's currently in the column updated since February, just change that to updated since March,
Yep.
and then move
Can do
what's
that.
currently in that column um, into the third column?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I just it doesn't actually matter what the format is. I just don't want to lose information. Like
Got it.
each
Mhm.
month, like yeah. However, whatever format actually works, I think this is great. I just don't want to lose information as we progress in months.
For sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is great. Thank you for
Mhm.
this update. And then also, if you can send that to the maybe to Neo beforehand, and then I think what the back does is they send it out with the calendar invite.
Okay.
So that would be so that people can kind of click around into the NOIs and stuff. That would be
Sure.
cool.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Zach.
Mhm.
Perfect. So then, yeah, next we've got, we have already elected our new treasurer, Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. We should be, oh yeah, so we can flip over to the February minutes. So what we had discussed in February, we had Kelly missing Sharon, and we actually now have Peter, who is the interim director of ODR, who is officially going to be the representative from ODR. Not able to make it today, but Office of Disability Rights. Not able to make it today, but will be able to join for future meetings. We at the last in February, what we had talked about, we had this, we talked about the bus priority monthly updates, and then we elected Matthew as our new treasurer, and our goal with integrating him into productive uses of dollars. We reviewed and approved our January minutes. We had a discussion with our friends from the AAC. We had both Sandy and Sarah join, which was great, and we learned a lot from them. And we shared some of our accessibility and collaboration opportunities, of which we actually have a few coming up at this meeting. So Sandy, I'm very glad you're here. We can share a few of the letters that we've written. Yeah, we talked about WMATA issues, specifically around signage, elevator, and Metro cards. Generally, we support AAC advocacy. We just had a good kind of exchange, kind of mutual education. Signage improvements, we have a letter that we'd love to share. And then we had elevator pathway signage and LaFont Plaza elevator access. We talked about this. We talked about curb access challenges. We also have a letter addressing this today as well. So we can talk about that. Advocacy for ADA pickup and drop off zones. I've got a letter queued up that we can talk about today. And for just general information sharing and meeting exchange, which is great. There's a wayfinding app that that Tino brought up. Tino was able to join at the end of last meeting, which was great. And then we concluded. So that was the February minutes. Unfortunately, I don't think we've got quorum. So I don't think we can actually vote on this, but I think just we did present it, and I think we can go ahead and move on. So yeah, so those were our February minutes. We unfortunately can't vote on them because we don't have them, but I think we can go ahead and move on to the rest of our March agenda. Let's start with Neil. Would you mind opening up the horizontal wayfinding pilot? So this is an idea that we had discussed a couple meetings ago when Tino was actually in person. We had a hybrid meeting, but basically this is proposing a on the side, essentially a on the sidewalk paint for bus stops, a small pilot that DDOT would do for specific stops where we could specifically indicate in large lettering where or what the buses that go past that particular sidewalk stretch were. So if you could scroll down a little bit now to the second page where there's the first image. This is an image. So this was inspired by, yeah, here we go. This is in Barcelona, and this is where they're indicating a particular bus is going in a particular direction, and this is just marked on the sidewalk itself. And this is kind of an interesting. So folks with visual impairments that really benefit from something like this, because oftentimes the metal signs that mark our bus stops are not very visible to folks with disabilities, with visual disabilities. So what we're proposing is basically, if you can scroll down a little bit more to the next image, is a small pilot that basically just has a simple marking of what bus it is and where the terminal station is on the sidewalk itself. And the idea, if you can scroll down a little bit further to the next page, yeah, here we go. So there's a whole process involved where DDOT might need to get approval from federal government and with a research plan, and we think it's worth doing and trying something new out. This letter outlines that process, or what we think that process might be, but basically the hope is that we can try this with 3 to 5 bus stops, and with some suggestions as to kind of where those might be, maybe at a major transit hub or a hospital, and we think that this 3 to 5 bus stop pilot might be just a kind of a cool way to experiment with something new and innovative that might actually help folks, and actually not just people with visual disabilities, but also just might remind people that there are bus stops and there are buses. Because oftentimes people just walking by might forget that a bus even comes, or might actually be inspired to ride the bus for the first time because they see this on the sidewalk. But yeah, we've got so this letter has a bunch of detail. We sent it out last month, but essentially here is our resolution that Kelly has already pre-approved. She's sent in an email vote for this, but here's the resolution. So the resolution here is in bold. Can you scroll up a little bit now? Yep, perfect. So DDOT initiate a horizontal wayfinding pilot at 3 to 5 bus stops in the district with high friction thermoplastics. That's so people don't slip on the sidewalk, to install route-specific pavement markings displaying the Metrobus route number and terminal destination in WMATA branded colors at boarding zones, and that DDOT submit a request to experiment to the Federal Highway Administration to establish the regulatory basis for broader deployment. So this is the text of our resolution. Before we vote on it, I'd love to get, so Matthew and Sandy, or anyone else as well, would love to get any thoughts, and Zach or anyone would love to get your thoughts on this particular idea and letter.
So this is Sandy. You named me first, so I'll go first. I love this idea. I have a very hard time looking up towards the sky to see bus flags when it's a bright sunny day. It seems like a very low cost way to label a bus stop. Granted, it would only work, oh, my cat's gonna step on my keyboard. It would only work where there's a sidewalk, which I guess in DC, there's sidewalks at all the bus stops. Out here in the sticks, we have grassy areas at many bus stops, unfortunately. But I think I would love to take this concept back to the bus rail subcommittee at Metro.
Fantastic. Cool. Thanks, Sandy. Matthew, any thoughts?
And that said, actually, that said, when would it be appropriate for you guys to come and present it, or me mention it? I can mention it in passing at any time, but a more formal presentation once you get more buy-in, funding, testing, whatever. Would that be acceptable for me to mention it in passing? Okay.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. And actually, our hope is that, like, if this works with Matthew, then we can pass this resolution and we can formalize this letter, and then we can send this both to DDOT and to everyone, including the AAC. And then if you can maybe distribute it to the AAC and see what they think, and then we can kind of go from there. I mean, it'll be a question of whether DDOT has the interest and resources to pursue a small pilot like this. But yeah, I mean, if there's interest from WMATA and also the citizen councils that are associated, I think that would make it even more likely that DDOT would take this on.
Whenever you have a letter or something in writing that you can pass forward, send it to my email address, and my protocol is to, send it to the person who facilitates, and she passes it to all of her Metro staff, and she passes it to all of the AAC members. But before that, I am happy to mention this at the April, I don't remember the date, second Monday in April, Bus Rail Subcommittee mentioned that you guys are working on this plan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andy. Oh, Zach, go for it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I remember the presentation. I would just say from our perspective, it may come down to whether or not we can actually do it. And I see the reference to asking USDOT if we could, but I would just wanted to make that note. Thanks.
Totally. Great. Thanks, Zach. Anyone else? Then I think we can just go ahead and vote on this. Oh, go for it, Matthew.
No, I was just going to echo everybody. This is Matthew. Echo everybody. I'm definitely in support of this.
Can I ask one quick
Cool.
question?
So
This is Sandy. What is the dimension? You said the dimension of the symbol that you're planning to put on the sidewalk. Could you remind me?
Yeah, we said 3 feet, 3 feet in diameter, which is large. And so I think it's basically just kind of a trial balloon. You know, it is large. It is larger than Barcelona, which was about a foot. But kind of just want to see where it goes. See, I mean, that would be large enough for someone like me, and it would be very hard to miss at that size. and I think, yeah, everyone I think would be able to, or everyone, no one would miss this, or very few people would miss this.
Yeah. My sense is that even 2 feet would work pretty darn well if that's a cost saving, but why don't you start with 3 feet and see where it goes?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'm on video. I'm battling allergies and I'm blowing my nose every like 15 seconds. And you don't need to see that. But I love this idea. I also, I mean, I'm just throwing this question out. I don't think you need to take it under consideration now, but I feel like this could lend itself nicely to also maybe a partnership with, I know, for example, there's an organization in DC called Chalk Riot. I think they've recently rebranded to Ground Shift Studio, but it could be a neat way to, I mean, obviously you'd want to standardize them and make them visible, but I wonder if there's a way to integrate public art into it or make it a little bit more dynamic and kind of aesthetically interesting. And I also wonder if there's a way to make it glow in the dark so that you can see it at night. But those are minor points.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. We'll add glow in the dark. Yeah, glow in the dark is super interesting. And also, yeah, Chalk Riot I think would be also a really interesting connection. So yeah, we'll make sure to send it to them. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks everybody. I think we can go ahead and vote on this, subject to those changes of adding something or just suggesting that we also might explore glow in the dark. So I think it's just, so Kelly has already voted yes. So it's just, I think I'll make a motion to approve this document. So is there a second from Matthew?
Second.
Perfect. So all in favor, I'll vote aye.
Aye.
And Kelly by proxy. So this motion passes, and we've got a letter that can go out after I make those changes, and I'll send them out to Neo, and Neo can distribute. And Sandy will make sure that you get a copy to share with AAC. Perfect. The next letter that we've got queued up is similar, although this has a different function, still relating to bus stops. Now, can you queue up the red marking at bus stops letter? So this letter is something that we have discussed in the past as well. But basically, it's come from, oops, I think I lost it. There we go. Yeah, here we go. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the basic idea here is that bus lanes are red, and because bus lanes are red and different, oftentimes they are respected by drivers. But the bus stops themselves are often not respected by drivers, and for multiple reasons. There's some drivers who just don't care at all. But a hypothesis is that a lot of folks just don't know that they're parked in a bus lane. And if we made it clear that they were parked in a bus lane, or made it clear where the bus stop actually was, then the bus could pull flush to the curb, which is super important for folks with wheelchairs. Very often we've got buses that cannot pull to the curb because there is a car obstructing the bus stop. And I've seen this myself, and it's super, it's just like really like blood boiling, honestly, to see someone in a wheelchair who cannot get on the bus because the bus cannot pull up to the curb because there is a car stopped at that bus stop or parked at that bus stop. And basically this proposal is basically asking DDOT to treat bus stops just like bus lanes. So use that same red paint and put that down at bus stops, so that drivers know that there's a bus, that it is a bus stop, and won't park there. So clear lanes is our bus priority automated traffic enforcement system, and it has started to work, which is great. But the problem is that it's only after the fact enforcement. What bus paint, or the red thermoplastic that has gone down for bus lanes can do is potentially warn people that, hey, this is a particular bus stop, and it might even, not only would help drivers know, but also help drivers avoid tickets too, because those bus flags that we noted in the previous letter, pretty small. So it's kind of very easy, especially where there's no bus shelter, very easy to miss. There are other places and other cities that have implemented something like this, and wouldn't be, we kind of made some guesses as to how much this would cost, but it's really, this wouldn't be changing any roadway geometry. It's just marking particular bus stops with the red thermoplastic. So that is the that's all this letter is. So if you can scroll down to the bottom, oh yeah, and then some people might complain about parking, but it was really illegal parking in the first place, and so like people shouldn't be parking there anyway. But if you can scroll down to the bottom, where oh yeah, so there we go. Here's the actual resolution. But before we vote on this, anybody have any comments about this particular letter or idea, or just kind of big picture, basically marking bus stops with red, just like bus lanes are red, but bus stops should also be red to allow for buses to pull flush against the curb.
So this is Sandy. I have a question. Would this be along the curb, along the sidewalk, along the street for the entire, like the footprint of the bus, where the bus would pull up to the curb at the bus stop?
Yeah, great question. The footprint of the bus itself. So basically so it'd be essentially, it would look like a bus lane, but so it would be the same, like it would take up the entire lane, but just for the bus zone.
So is it a solid red for that, the width of the bus, the length of the bus on the street?
That's what we're proposing.
Actually, but thermoplastic, not paint.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what it is. Like that red, what we think of as paint is actually thermoplastic.
Oh, okay. I'm in favor of this. A great idea.
Cool. Matthew, Ashton, or Zach, any thoughts or comments here?
I'm in favor.
Okay, cool. So I think we can go. Kelly has also approved this particular letter as well. So so I'll read the text here, that DDOT immediately beginning installing red durable pavement markings at bus stops, stating starting with the highest violation locations identified by clear lanes enforcement data, and adopt red markings as a standard design element for all bus stops, constructions, reconstructions, and modifications under the Better Bus Network redesign that just happened, and all future capital projects. So this is a start. It's not calling for anything retroactive, but just going forward. But yeah, so I'll make a motion. Matthew, is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. All in favor, I'll vote aye. Kelly has voted aye by proxy, and Matthew.
Aye.
Perfect. Great. Thanks. So this is ready to cook. So we'll send this over to DDOT and the bus team as well. And then our last letter, if you can cue this up.
Excuse
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
This is Sandy. I'm so glad I joined your meeting. Is it possible for you to send me a copy of that letter? Is it appropriate for you to send me a copy of that letter also as it's in progress?
100%.
Or is it more appropriate to wait until it's approved by,
It is now actually officially been approved. So we will send you this letter as well.
okay, I will share that at the April Bus Rail Subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. And lastly, yes, we've got, so there's our final letter. So this is something Kelly has brought up and our previous chair has brought up to Heidi Case. And this has been a bane in the side of many folks with who ride wheelchairs, and basically it's that they can't actually, and DFHV has brought this up as well for their wheelchair assisted vehicles, but basically the upshot of this is that there are very few places in downtown DC where someone can get dropped off by either a ride hail vehicle or a Metro Access vehicle mid-block. So basically what's happening is that in downtown DC and most of the district, honestly, but especially in downtown DC where the curbside is very, very congested and often lined with parked cars, there are none or very few, if any, places where a vehicle can pull flush with the curb and let someone with the wheelchair out directly onto the sidewalk. This is proposing that we install more to create the concept of an ADA only pickup drop-off zone and start installing them in the downtown core. So it's not even clear how many of these, if any, exist in the district, but there are tons and tons of parking spaces, 150,000 estimated residential parking spaces for 700,000 people, 20,000 metered parking spaces, loading zones, and diplomatic parking, but we don't even know how many ADA pickup drop-off zones there are, if any. But we want to bring this up because this is a real problem, because right now the only places that folks can get dropped off in general are at the curb cuts, which is a big problem in itself because one of our previous issues that we brought up is daylighting. And basically what this is doing is when a vehicle is forced to pull up to and sometimes in the crosswalk, that's creating a dangerous condition, not only for the wheelchair rider, but also other people just crossing the street because now that vehicle is obstructing the crosswalk and potentially the visibility and the sight lines of all the drivers. So this is a real problem. So Neo, if you can scroll down a little bit, basically what we're proposing here is that we start installing ADA only PUDOs. This is, and specifically to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Basically what we're hoping to do, especially in the downtown core, starting in the down core, is just like a block by block audit of where we could and should install these PUDO zones, and with the hope that we can have a lot of these mid-block PUDO zones. If you can scroll down to the bold NAO, yep, yeah, here we go. Okay, cool. So essentially, what we're hoping to propose here is converting some of the metered parking spaces into ADA compliant pickup drop-off zones through the downtown core, and then using yeah. So actually, I'll just read this, and then I'll make a couple of notes after this. The DDOT immediately begin converting metered parking spaces into ADA compliant drop-off zones throughout the downtown core, starting a block-by-block engineering and structural audit to identify feasible mid-block locations, and that DDOT adopt an ADA PUDO zone as a standard curbside element in all future capital projects, corridor redesign, and better bus implementations, with the goal of universal coverage across the district. So that is the idea. But yeah, before oh yeah, and just a kind of another note, if we have a protected bike lane, there's also a way to make that accessible as well. So there, even if there is a protected bike lane, there's a way to make what's called a floating bus stop, or a floating island, so that we can still access the curb through an accessible PUDO. So you can still, so basically the upshot is that you can still have an ADA PUDO coexisting with a protected bike lane. Those two need not come into conflict. But yeah, any discussion on this front? Kelly has already voted yes by proxy on this as well.
I'm wondering if, so I think this is brilliant, and I'm wondering if this is, you know, I don't know when it would be possible, but a light kind of entry into this space would be to have like a column in the spreadsheet that Zach was showing to like determine whether or not the PUDOs have been identified or placed, or like what the process or what the status of the PUDO is for each of those bus projects that were in the mix. I know it's probably a little bit further off, but that could be a nice way to track progress as well.
That's interesting. So I think the core idea here is separate from the bus zones, there should be an ADA pickup and drop off zone. So even where there are places where there are no buses, this would exist mid-block. This would exist mid-block.
So I think what I'm suggesting is it's, at least if I'm not following, that's totally fine, but DDOT adopt ADA PUDO zones as a standard curbside element in all future capital projects, corridor redesigns, and better bus implementations. And so my read of that is that, like, as Zach is giving the updates on all of the bus projects, there can be like a running activity of, like, you know, if PUDO zones have been integrated into the design process, or am I misunderstanding the intent of that sentence?
I understand the confusion. So yeah, we shouldn't have included better bus in here. So the idea here is basically completely separate from buses and bus projects, and I think better bus in here is causing the confusion that we can remove. That basically whether or not a street is served, whether or not a street in the downtown core is served by a bus, it should have if it has metered parking right now, some of that metered parking should be removed mid-block, make way for an ADA only mid-block Pudo.
This is Sandy. I have a question, and this might be appropriate further down the line, but it might be appropriate to sort of start now, where you have bus islands established or will have established in the future. If the bus island is a little bit longer, can it serve as a Pudo?
Oh, that's quite interesting. That's really interesting. So there is a way to potentially, yeah, that is quite interesting.
The tail
Yes.
end of the bus island is usually towards the intersection, but the front end of the bus island is more towards the middle of the block. It's not exactly in the block, but that would avoid.
Yep.
I could see how this might blend together. It might get more objections and complaints, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. Right now, I don't believe there are any, not that I can think of in the downtown core, any bus islands, because this would be a place where a protected bike lane would go in. Oh no, on 11th Street is probably the one place where there is a protected bike lane next to a bus lane that's a newly installed. I think that I would prefer to keep this separate from buses. I think it's a smart idea to connect this to buses eventually, but just to get the ball rolling on getting a standard for ADA Pudos and getting it started in a few places. Maybe there's where there are no buses that go at all, might be a good way to start. I do like this idea.
I agree with you that keep it separate and clean for now to get it started. It's just sort of a future concept. Like if bus islands become more prevalent, can they be put to use as Pudos also?
Yeah, absolutely. I do like that idea. Ashton, do you have your hand up?
I did. I was wondering, so in your so I was originally going to ask what feasible meant, and then I saw that it's in number 1. I haven't gotten through the rest, so maybe my question is answered there. But if for some reason the audit finds that because of vault slope utility conflicts that a mid-block crossing is not physically feasible, would the alternative be to put it somewhere else, or would it be no ADA Pudo zone like on the block at all? Because I think what I worry about is that they're going to do some audit and then determine on like X number of blocks it's not possible, but might not have super, I don't know, that it might be a floor rather than a ceiling. And if there's a way to kind of ensure that it gets implemented more often than not and can't be wiggled out of because of a technicality, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I understand that, and the kind of the more ways that we can. There's kind of a little bit of a balance because there, like you, especially when we're kind of proposing something new. I'd rather get it started than kind of aim for perfection. Like, I mean, really, like there should be an ADA Pudo on both sides of every street in the downtown core. Like that should exist. But right now, few, if any, exist at all. And basically, I would like to basically just get it started.
Can I ask my question in one other way? Is there a reason for mid-block and not just anywhere on the block? Like, would it be less convoluted if you said like we will look at every block and determine the best place for a PUDO, an ADA PUDO based on the physical attributes of it? Because I also, like if it's 5 feet off of the mid block, or, you know, like I'm sure that there's a good reason to make it mid block that I just don't know about, but I'm wondering if having flexibility in the where it is in the block would get you more. And like the other way to think about perfect enemy of the good is like not specifying mid block and rather just making it where it fits best. And then I'll be quiet.
The core idea here with mid block is that because right now the de facto way that people get dropped off is the curb cut at the start or end of every block. And the problem with that is that what that does is it obstructs when the vehicle pulls into that area. It's generally a crosswalk, and that obstructs the crosswalk for people crossing, and also it obstructs the sight lines for other drivers. So that's kind of the idea of why mid block.
So mid block is not like the exact midpoint of the block. It's just anywhere in between the kind of sightline cutouts. Is that right?
That's the thought. That's the thought. And we can specify that too, is just basically like somewhere like along the block that does not obstruct. Yeah, we can change this letter so that it specifically calls out, you know, an ADA PUDO. ADA PUDO should not obstruct any sight lines, and also it shouldn't overlap with any mid-block crosswalks or any crosswalks, whether they be mid-block or at intersections.
Karthik, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so any other thoughts here? Subject to, you know, we'll make those changes, basically striking the buses from this letter, and then also kind of also indicating that this is specifically for ADA PUDOs in places that don't obstruct any crosswalks, whether mid-block or otherwise. But then also we'll make a note, not in this letter, but for ourselves to look at this for the future, looking at potentially extending or proposing the extension of bus islands that already exist to facilitate more ADA PUDO zones. Yeah, go for it, Sandy.
So one more question. In this survey, if there's a place along the block that has pavement to the curb and a curb, you know, regular standard height curb, that could be ideal. And presumably this will work around or take into consideration and not try to interfere with a lot of trees and little tiny fenced in areas of greenery and shrubbery. I mean, presumably that doesn't need to be said, but you know, in the survey, I'm hoping that, I'm hoping in the survey that, you know, if there's an ideal location that's a third of the way from one end or the other, that would be the one that would be flagged as there's already a good location here.
Yeah, we can specify that as well. Luckily, the downtown core doesn't have a ton of large trees, or some streets don't have any trees, but we can specify that. Yeah, I totally agree. This should not, you know, they shouldn't choose locations that if they just move a little bit further away, that we can avoid cutting down trees. So just, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Kelly has already voted yes by proxy for this. I think I've already read the resolution. Matthew, any thoughts? And if not, is there all motion to approve this letter to go out to DDOT, subject to making those changes about striking buses, and also integrating language around preserving trees, and also specifying mid-block to not interfere with any crosswalks, either at the intersections or mid-block crosswalks.
I agree with the recommendations.
Okay, perfect, cool. So yeah, so all motion to make this resolution to adopt this letter subject to the changes. So yeah, Matthew, is there a second?
Yep, second.
Perfect, great, thanks, Matthew. So all vote aye. Also, Kelly Mack votes aye by proxy, and Matthew.
Aye.
Perfect, great. Sandy, go for it.
I have so many questions. So again,
Oh, it's good.
I would love to present this in spirit to the Metro Access Subcommittee. There are many Metro Access vehicle riders in DC, and this seems like a no-brainer to help. However, Metro Access vehicles, when they drop off a person, it's door-to-door service, but the driver cannot go out of line of sight from their vehicle. So, you know, on the one hand, they might really like this. They might be able to take advantage of it. On the other hand, it might get all twisted up in details of, you know, you're supposed to get somebody to the front door. So, but I see it as a potential help no matter what. And if you would like me to, I will present this as in spirit, this is going forward as a, how do I say it? A recommendation, yeah. If you'd like me to, I'd be happy to.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, so we'll make the changes and we'll send you those updated letters. Yeah, we'd love to get any AAC input or interest or sign on or whatever folks see fit. That would be fantastic. Great. Okay. So that was the major pieces or the major letters that we had in the hopper. So all three will be going forward, subject to a few changes. Then we've got some future guests. So in April, we've got confirmed Jamie, who's the director of the bus priority team or manager of the bus priority team. In May, we've got a tentative confirmation from DDOT Director Kirschbaum. We've got a few other asks out, one for DDOT curbside management, hopefully to talk about 88 PUDOs. Zach, any update from them on when they can present or when they can come and speak to us?
No update from them yet, but I'll follow up with them.
Okay, perfect. And then the other team that I think Nao has already reached out about, but if not, I'll just verbalize it now. It would be great to get Office of Risk Management here. We'd love to talk about daylighting and sidewalks. There's a group that has kind of brought this up in the past and would love to follow up with them. So if we can invite Office of Risk Management as well for a future meeting, ideally in June or July, that would be great.
Yep, got it. I saw those emails come across too.
Awesome, great, thank you, Zach. We also have an ask for DPW director. We had snow we had our friend from DPW snow clearance team, Ms. West, come and present last year. It would be great to follow up with her. We have an ask already. But even more than that, we'd actually really like the director of DPW to come and speak with us to talk both about snow clearance, especially for folks with disabilities. I mean, we've written letters about this in the past where we've had wheelchair riders unable to leave their home because for weeks on end because the curb cuts aren't clear and the sidewalks aren't clear. So yes, we've got an ask for them to come, and then we've also have an ask for director for hire vehicles to come as well to follow up on our wheelchair accessible vehicle questions that we've got. And yeah, so those are the kind of the future asks. So for meetings going forward. Today we didn't have a guest, so I think we may be able to wrap up early. But before we do so, any kind of further thoughts, or really about anything we've discussed today, or anything that we haven't discussed today? Feel free to just share. Sandy, go for it.
So I'm really glad that the agenda's a little open, because I certainly didn't get this into you ahead of time. But the bus rail subcommittee, several members, Sarah Rott and myself, and a few members of the public have established a signage working group to give Metro advise, suggest on Metro rail signage. Static signage is what we're starting with. I can't remember if I mentioned that at the last meeting, that your February meeting. I don't think so. I'm not sure how far we've gotten by the time I hopped on your meeting. But one of the things that Metro is suggesting for, and this is visible signage, this is not auditory issue, but they're planning to put what they call station ahead map. I think of it as a list of the next stations, starting with where you are, what's the name of this Metro rail station, and going forward towards the end of the line. Now, these used to be on horizontal signs. They sometimes had them on vertical signs. Metro admits that in various iterations of, this would be a better idea, the signage has become inconsistent throughout the system, and they're trying to come up with a best plan, roll it out in mid-April at L'Enfant Plaza, and then take public comment for a couple of months, or maybe just a month, and then tweak that signage a bit, and then codify it and submit it to the WMATA board for approval, to then roll it out over the next 5 years throughout the Metro system. Now, obviously, the Metro rail stations that are most difficult to navigate are the ones that have multiple rail lines and are transfer stations. So L'Enfant Plaza, Metro Center, Gallery Place come to mind. And so I'm very proud of them for doing it at the most difficult station, L'Enfant Plaza, with 5 lines and, oh my goodness, 4 exits or 3 exits. Anyway, but they gave us a good demonstration of mock-ups of some of the signs at WMATA headquarters on February 6th. So maybe I did mention it at your February meeting. And I'd say the biggest point of concern amongst all of the low vision people who are working on this signage working group, the biggest point of concern is that they want to have the station ahead maps. I call them lists, but there's a line beside the station names, and it bifurcates as rail lines bifurcate. So, where blue, orange, and silver run together, all those lines are parallel, and there's one list of station names. But as you go farther, they divide, and it gets more complicated. They want to start with the station you're at this moment at the bottom of the list. These are going to be vertical signs on the square pylons or the round
Mm,
concrete pillars. And that, I can't quite say everybody, but everybody I know who's low vision has said, what are they thinking? You know, we're not going to be able to.
you want to eye level first. Yeah.
So this is an instance where we've decided, Sarah Rott and I were discussing it, and what we're going to do is try to do what you guys are doing, put a letter forward to WMATA and say, you know, for these various reasons, we believe it would be better for low vision people, better for visitors to DC, better for every rider if it starts the way it's done for years with the station that you're at the top, and you read down the list of stations.
Yeah.
So as Sarah and I get a
I
draft
agree with
as Sarah and I get a draft of this together, I will send it to you if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if I mean, the turnaround, I think we might, Sarah and I and the signage working group might be trying to get a letter to WMATA before your next meeting. So, but you could certainly respond to a draft and we could say that we have buy-in from you. And in addition to
yeah, absolutely. And at the very least, I'm sorry to interrupt. At the very least, we can just say, you know, in our personal capacities, we may not be able to vote on it officially as the MAAC, but in our personal capacities, we can definitely signal support.
Right, and then that's what we're looking for, is support from other groups. So other groups who have, you know, I think we especially need buy-in from groups that have cognitive challenges as well as people who have vision challenges. You know, people who have cognitive challenges trying to read something. And I think, I can't remember for sure if this is going to be tactile raised lettering. And if that's the case, then blind riders can use it. But as somebody pointed out to me the other day, if you're blind and you're trying to read Braille, you put your hand in front of you like you're trying to tell somebody stop, and you use your fingers to feel things. And as you go down, by the time you get to your waist, you have to turn your wrist upside down and kind of read upside down. Would be a justification for starting with the station you're at the top rather than starting with the station you're at the bottom. Okay. I would be happy to send this along. Karthik, are you a good point of contact? That's the email that I have. I can send it to you.
Yes, please. And and I'm going to put in the chat another our general email as well. If you can copy that, info@maacdc.org.
Okay, hang on. I think you told me that before. I can't see the, well, let me see. Yes, info@maacdc.org. Okay. Would it be better if I sent it to that or to both?
To both, please. Yeah, that way it will definitely make sure we'll definitely, everyone will definitely see it, because we'll get it and I'll forward it out to the rest of the council.
Okay, and if you now, my focus and my awareness, let's put it, is primarily vision based, but the AAC represents all disabilities, mobility. I've learned a lot about, you know, when you're using a wheelchair, the stumbling blocks along the way, along your route. But we also address, you know, people with hearing, deafness, and like I said, cognitive issues. So if you can think of other organizations that you think it would be useful for me to share with, please feel free to send me some ideas, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So Matthew is a vice president of DC Association for the Deaf. So he's already on the council, and you'll get a copy of this as well.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Matthew. If you can, I'll try to, I think if I'm sharing it with you, I could probably put a sort of a header paragraph that says this is of high concern to us, and we would like, consideration and thoughts and feedback from other Metro riders. So it would, at which point I think I could say, please share widely or appropriately or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Thank you. I had a couple other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll forward it on to some other folks as well that I think might be interested.
My cat keeps helping by sitting on my notes. I had a couple, if there's time, can I ask
Yeah, there is. And actually, Peter, interim director of Office of Disability Rights and newest MAAC member, has joined and suggests in the chat project action as well. So it's another great suggestion.
Okay. Yeah, when you mentioned that he wasn't here yet, I thought, wow, what a good contact.
Here I am. Sorry for the delay. Yes, project action you just mentioned, because you were trying to reach out to people with cognitive disabilities, and their focus is people with cognitive disabilities, intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Excellent. Okay. Now you may just represent DC, but that's okay. That's a beginning. That's a good step in the right direction. Another topic that I want to share with you is the, and this is in the very formative stages, so I'm just going to mention it. We haven't got our act together yet, but just to be aware that we're going to ask that Metro consider for Metro access riders the concern of medical necessity, what type of vehicle you have, versus Metro access thinking, oh, it's just a preference that we want a certain type of vehicle. So we're trying to get our act together to present something along those lines to Metro access, but don't hold your breath. I mean, we hope we can move this forward, and as appropriate, I might bring it back to you for support.
Great. Yeah, we're very always happy to bring it to the council and support.
Okay, and two more things. So
Of course.
Zach, you're doing this wonderful job of keeping track of the in a spreadsheet the bus route status update. Is that something that you could present? That there's this database out there. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure how, but it just seems like a useful piece of information for the bus rail subcommittee to be aware of. This is going on in DC. It's the kind of thing that we haven't quite found contacts. We were talking to somebody in DPW of Prince George's County, and we keep getting sort of pushed back at arm's length, like we're not quite ready to give you more updates. We're not quite ready to say, oh, the budget is so broken, we can't really do anything. But I'm not quite sure what your position is, Zach. Are you just a member of this council, or are you a DC Public Works Department employee?
I work for DDOT, the Department of Transportation. Yeah.
Okay. So at the risk of throwing you under the bus, might I be able to ask you to give a presentation, a few months in the future about how you keep track of projects and what's the status of bus island projects? Bus islands get a lot of friction, is not quite the right word, anxiety, concern. There's people who are very pro bus islands and people are very not pro bus islands, but is that something? And I'm not even sure. Have you talked to the bus rail subcommittee before? I'm terrible with names.
Maybe I've talked to the AAC before. So short answer, yes. I think either myself, I'll coordinate with our team internally about our bus priority team about who could give a presentation to the bus and rail subcommittees and whether or not someone from that team was already on the docket to do that. But yeah, short answer is we'll figure something out.
Okay,
I'll put my contact in the chat.
Okay, if you do, I'll try to copy it. And my vision's not the best, but I was able to see the previous chat.
And our hope is also that update. So Sandy, just for your edification, there are two other modal councils that DC has: Pedestrian Advisory Council and the Bicycle Advisory Council. And the Bicycle Advisory Council has a DDOT standing member from the what they call the active transportation branch that builds the bike lanes. And basically this came out of this idea, basically sending out updates on the bus priority projects came out of the Bicycle Advisory Council, which gets a document every month from DDOT, basically outlining the updates on all of the various bike lane projects around the district. And basically the goal is for us to receive that monthly, but for buses. And the ask this time also was to make this this document part of our agenda and our invite going forward. So like every month when someone gets the invite to this meeting, attached to that would be the bus update, the bus standing update as well.
Okay. So much as I'd love to be involved in every type of transportation, there's only so much one can do. And Metro Access, the AAC, the Accessibility Advisory Committee, although bicycles become an issue in terms of bicycles on Metro, bicycles being in lockers and bustling bike lanes going along with bus islands. Oh gosh, I didn't copy that down from the chat fast enough. We can't really address bike lanes quite so directly as bus transportation, but tangentially, it's obviously very important. So anyway, Zach, thank you for volunteering.
I raised that just as some history, just so that you understand where I was coming from. There is a Bicycle Advisory Council that does a lot of work. We're not; it's just a sister council to us. But they receive a standing bike lane update monthly, and it goes out on their invites for the Bicycle Advisory Council. And basically, we're hoping to replicate that here, but for buses, for our bus lane projects.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys letting me join the meeting. I've learned a lot, and I was hoping to make a contact, hoping that you could help us, and I can try to help you, or our committee, not me personally. The groups can help each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super glad that you're able to make it, and we'll also try to send a representative as soon as we start to staff up. We still only have 4 of our 6 seats filled, so it kind of makes it difficult. But we're hoping to get the other 2 filled, and be able to start kind of reaching out to more community groups and getting kind of more engagement from the general public as well. So yeah, well, thanks everyone. Is there or actually before we conclude and before we adjourn, anything else, any other kind of thoughts, questions, updates, concerns before we adjourn?
Hi, this is Zach. Cindy, I'll get your contact information from NAO too, and we can go from there. If you didn't have it in the chat, it's fine.
I'm not very good at the chat, but I don't mind saying it out loud. Actually,
please do. Yeah.
Okay, so it's my first name, Sandy, Sandy.
Yep.
Dot, and my last name, Nuzell, N like November, EUZIL @gmail.com.
Perfect. I got it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Zach.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. Peter, go for it.
Hey all, sorry, this is Peter. I am the interim director for the Office of Disability Rights. I just wanted to ask a super interesting conversation, and would love to get a copy of that letter. It sounds like, Karthik, you're going to circulate it. Is it possible, Karthik, for me to call you after this about the email you sent me earlier? I just want to follow up.
Of course. Yes. Obviously. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to send you my my cell if you don't have it already.
Okay, sure.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thanks everyone. I really appreciate it. And so this concludes our March 2026 Multimodal Accessibility Advisory Council. We'll see everybody next month for April, second Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. maacdc.link/meeting. Thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your month.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.